Again, good morning, AGOHO. Welcome to the last lecture for the SEM. This is lecture number 7 for correlation, simple correlation and regression analysis. And for this session, I would like you to collaborate with me as we finish or as we accomplish the lecture for today. So tulungan niyo akong mag-compute ng correlation coefficient. I'll be giving you this document. So you can edit. So sa chat ko ilalagay to everyone. So tell me kung na-access niyo na yung document. Okay. Yeah. Oh, wag mo na kayo mag-edit. But anyway, this is what we're going to do today. Parang dun sa lecture, dun sa webinar, ni-run lahat nila yung test using R Commander. So, but for now, since I wasn't able to introduce R Commander with you, we'll do it by hand. That's number 1. We'll do it by hand. The second one is we'll do it using a calculator, using AGOHO calculator. And the third one, actually third and fourth one, we'll do it in Microsoft Excel and in GeoGebra. Okay? Sige. I'll be sharing my screen now. Pero kita niyo din naman to. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Thumbs up. Okay, thank you. So the table below shows the relationship between the number of hours spent studying and the final exam grades. Number 1, you have to draw a scatter plot of the data. Okay, dun sa webinar naman, sinabi naman kung ano yung scatter plot. You can do this by hand, but you can also do this using Microsoft Excel or using GeoGebra. So let me show you how to do this in GeoGebra. Basically, it's the same thing with Microsoft Excel. Okay, so I'll be going to spreadsheet in GeoGebra. So, dalawa yung window na nakabukas sa akin. So, I'll be closing this window. And then, you can copy and paste the data. I'll be pasting it here. Oops. So, anong nangyari pala? Kinapi lang niya ng isang pahaba. So, I'll be copying ito munang X variable natin. Yung independent variable natin will be the number of hours studying. And then, it will predict the final exam grades. So, tingin nyo ba, may relationship ba yan? Sige nga, paliwanag nyo nga sa akin. Or isa din kayo dun sa mga na on the spot, yung madaling araw nagre-review tapos they were still able to pull through. Kesa dun sa mga nagre-review weeks or days before tapos they will find out na mas nalilito sila. Sige, saan kayo dun? 1 or 2? Comment down below. 1 or 2. Kayo ba yung send it to everyone Kayo ba yung number 1, yung mas pumapasa kayo kapag parang kunyari, ngayon yung exam 8 a.m. Tapos nagre-review kayo madaling araw or hours before the exam? Or kayo ba yung yung mas okay kung ang preparation nyo will be days before or siguro gabi? Option lang by direct message sa akin. Sige, yeah, everyone. Can you see everyone now? Can you see the everyone link na? Sorry pala, option. So, 1 daw si Mika. Mika, sinasabi ko Si Jaisal daw 2. Okay. Ako din actually. Sige, I'll be waiting for the rest. 1 daw si AR. Please send it to everyone 1. Actually, when I was in high school also, 1 is good for me. Yung mga tipong mamaya yung quiz ng 9 a.m. Tapos mga 8:30 or yung recess ako nagre-review. And it's actually working. Okay, but now, simula nung tumanda na ako for graduate school, I find it very helpful if I'm going to distribute the materials to be reviewed for several days. Okay. But anyway, kung ano yung nag-work sa atin, yung gagawin natin. Okay, so let's see. The first thing you need to do is to check whether there is an apparent or may linear resemblance. Okay? Or kung yung pattern ng mga dots natin ay nagpapakita ng straight line. So, for Microsoft, for GeoGebra, all you have to do is to highlight this. And then you can go to this one. Okay. And then we don't want this one. We're not going to do multiple variable analysis. Instead, we're going to do 2 variable regression analysis. So you have to click that. And then you can check here kung tama yung data natin. And then just click analyze. So pwede nyo itong i-resize. And then you can have your scatter plot here. Actually, hindi ko pa na-test kung pwedeng i-rename to. Pero alam ko pwede. Or I can put names here before the actual data. So you can try it on yourself. So we can copy this, copy to clipboard, and then we'll go back to the document. Okay, so we can have the scatter plot here. Medyo malaki lang. Okay. If you'll notice, yung data natin X versus Y ay nagpapakita ng parang straight line, straight linear trend. Okay? Kapag chinek niyo yung scatter plot ng bivariate data nyo, tapos nakita nyo parang hindi naman linear yung trend nila. Baka hindi appropriate yung correlation coefficient to estimate the relationship. Baka may iba pang, actually may iba pang model na pwedeng gamitin. So that's the first thing that you need to check. Tingnan nyo kung linear yung trend. Okay? The other one is we can use the Microsoft Excel to, let me open first my Excel. I haven't tried it with Google Spreadsheet. Ang alam ko meron. Of course, there should be. Okay, so maliit. I hope you can see now my Excel file, and then all you have to do is to copy the data. So dito ko nalagay sa medyo gitna. So we have X here, the number of hours spent studying and final exam grades. All you have to do is to highlight this and then go to insert. Then look for the charts. Sa charts, meron ditong scatter plot. So you can select this one, the first one. Select the first one. Yeah, so you can have this. The good thing about Microsoft Excel is you can add elements. You can add titles on the x-axis. You can add titles on the y-axis. You can click this one. Parang mga quick chart layout. So if I click that one, you can rename this the final exam grades. Final exam grades, such as FEG. For this one, number of hours spent studying. Yeah. So you can delete this one kung di nyo gusto. And if you will notice, linear pa rin yung trend natin. Okay? So you can use either this one or the Google, the GeoGebra. Okay ba tayo? Do you have any questions so far? Okay pa? Okay. And then, we're now going to calculate and interpret a correlation coefficient. But first, let's do it by hand. So, gagawin ko, kakopy ko muna to dito. Tapos, tingnan natin kung paano natin i-compute yung correlation coefficient by hand. So, I have here, wait lang, nasa na ba ako? Anong sinishare ko? Yung document. So, tama. So, dito nyo ako tutulungan. Let me get the formula for the correlation coefficient R. I'm going to screenshot an ebook. So this is the formula. So saan nakita nyo? No? Maliwanag ba yung formula? Or i-ano ko na lang pala. Kunin ko yung pinaka-formula. Yung maliit na part para mas malaki siya. Wait lang. There you go. Okay, so ano yung mga kailangan natin? So pag-compute natin, we need the x and the y values. This one, it means summation. So kailangan natin mag-insert ng isa pababa. Insert row below for the sum. And then, magdadagdag tayo ng, base sa formula, we need x times y. So we need an xy here. So mag-insert tayo ng insert column. Column right. Okay? And we also need the square of x. Parang sobrang liwanag ko pala. Bukasan ko. Yeah. Okay. So we add again another to the right. And then we need the y squared. Another column. So dito, lagay natin yung, ano bang gusto niyo? Una natin gustong kunan. Sige, xy na lang muna. So in this case, you will get xy. So can I ask someone to please fill in this table for the product of the two, x times y. So that's 3 times 50, that's 150. Ayan, sige, si Dea na lang, Dea. Si Mika, can you do the x squared on the other one? Sige, Mika, x squared, so sabihin i-square mo lahat ng x. So let's insert an equation here, x squared, and who would like to do the y squared? Anybody? Who would like to do the y squared? So sabihin square naman natin yung mga y. Si Jaisel. Okay, sige. Jaisel do the ano. Alam si Alex na rin gumagawa. Okay lang. Sige, Jaisel, could you please help me get the sum of all the x? Sige, Jaisel, kindly add all these x's. Who would like to do it for the y? Siguro si Nia. Yan, tama. Sakto yung tawag ko. Nia, find the sum of all the y's. Just place it here. Kaya ko ba itong ibahin ng kulay? Yeah, I think so. Ay, hindi pala. Nagbago pala. The color pala. Ito pala. Part na to. Okay. How about for the sum of all the xy? Yung mga ginawa ni Aldea, who would like to get the sum? Can I ask Nicole? Nicole, can you please get the sum of xy? And then si Allure for x squared. And then si Majella naman for y squared. Sige, just get the sum. So if you want to compute this by hand, I suggest that you make a column for the x and make a column for the y. And then insert these other 3 columns, xy, x squared, and y squared. Kapag yung data binigay sa inyo ng pa-horizontal, transform nyo na lang. So I already have for the final exam. Okay. The others, you may check, you may check the sums para, or the data para dire-diretso tayo ng computation later. Anyway, we will verify this using calculator later. Sige. So I think I was able to assign somebody to get the sum for the xy column, for the x squared column, and for the y squared column. Okay. Yeah. The others, kindly check the data. Check the data. Okay. So para hindi tayo malito, I'm going to label 36. This is insert equation. This is the sum of x. Sum of x, and the 549, this is the sum for y. The 2795, that is the summation of xy. Xy. The 240, that's the summation of x squared. Okay, so dito na lang tayo sa sa y squared. Y squared. Get the sum for y squared. Na-OC ako dito. Sorry. Okay, yan. So, meron na si Alexa. So, this is summation for y squared. Yan, okay. Thank you. So, for the rest, you can check the data. So, we're now ready to get the value of r. So, dito natin ilagay. For the new equation, r is equal to, and then let's just substitute everything. Okay. So, we'll start with this one, n. N is the number of data pairs. So, what is n? N should be, how many data pairs do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8, no? So it's 8. Pagwalit sa mga parentheses, 8 times the summation for xy. Parang ang liit ng font. So kailangan ko itong part na to. Parang hindi siya lumalaki. Okay, 8 times summation of xy, it's 2,795 minus the product of the sum of x and y. So that's 36 times 549 divided by the square root of, medyo mahaba to, dalawang parentheses to na kailangan natin i-multiply. So, dalawang parentheses to. For the first parenthesis, that's n, so that's 8, times summation of x squared, it's 204, minus summation of x, which is 36, and then you have to square. You have to square it. So, take a look at this formula, ha. Ito, mag-iba to, yung summation of x squared. Iba yun sa summation of x, tapos square natin. So, iba siya. For the other one, so we have 8 times summation of y squared, which is 40,251, 4251. Let's multiply. Just use our asterisk for the multiplier. And then minus square naman ng summation ng y. So 549 squared. So yun nga, can somebody please help me compute for r? Okay. Kapag meron na kayong value, you can just type here. Tapos let others verify. Yun. So pwede pala siyang palakihin. Then if you already have values, please type here. And let others verify. Yan, si Jaisal. Mukhang meron na si Jaisal. Sige, type lang, Jaisal. Mga 4, yeah. 4 decimal places. So, kung pares kayo ng sagot ni Jaisal, ano lang, thumbs up lang. May nag-chat sa akin. Mika, ayan Mika, parehas kayo very well. Yan, yung mga parehas ang ano, thumbs up tayo ah. Okay, so madami na, no? Tatlo yung nag-verify sa akin na parehas daw yung nakuha nila. Okay, so I think we got the correct answer. Then we'll have to interpret this. So how do we interpret this? Kung babalikan natin yung video, may binigay si Professor Yambot na table on how to determine the degree of linear relationship. So nakita lang natin na the relationship is the correlation coefficient is 0.9. How do we interpret this? So let me paste the table for reference. So ito yung binigay sa atin ni Professor Yambot. Okay, so saan tayo? What is the strength of the linear relationship? Sige, on the chat box. What is the strength? Saan siya? Okay, sabi ni Aldea, sabi ni Mika, very strong daw. Okay, very good. There's a very strong. Okay. Sino yung nakakatanda? How do we interpret this? So, siguro I can assign si Aldea. Si Aldea, will you please help me finish the sentence? How do we interpret this? So you can say, the first thing you need to do is you can check the scatter plot. If your scatter plot look like this one, so pataas siya from left to right, ibig sabihin you have a positive linear relationship. Pero kung pababa siya, decreasing from left to right, so you have a negative linear relationship. But for this case, since pataas siya, you have a positive. So you can say there is a positive. You can first say kung ano yung degree or yung strength. So sabi ni Aldea, ni Alexa, tsaka ni Mika, there's a strong positive linear relationship between, sige, I will ask Aldea to complete this sentence. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Very good, very good. Which means so you can now interpret this. You can interpret the interpretation. So as the number of ano bang gusto niya sa which means? This means that as the number of hours spent studying increases, again, can I ask somebody to please complete the sentence? As the number of hours spent studying increases, sige. Sige, si Aldea ulit. Sige. The final exam grades also increases. Very nice. Siguro can yeah. Grade and then let's just use increases. Yeah. Okay. Okay ba tayo? Sige, thumbs up na kung okay tayo. You have questions for this one? So let me put this in bold para alam natin na yun yung sagot natin for the interpretation. So we have this. This is positive because the trend is increasing. If you have a data that when you plot the scatter plot and you see that the trend is decreasing, then you will get a negative value for the R. And then yung interpretation nyo will be there is a, or if it's strong, there is a strong negative linear relationship. Do not forget the word linear kasi linear lang yung pinag-uusapan natin for this course. Okay. Ay, oo nga no. Very strong pala yung nasa docs. Sorry, sabi pala ni Alexa, very, very strong. Okay, tama, very strong. There's a very strong. Thank you for that one. Thank you, Mika and Alexa. Yeah, ako nga pala, very strong. Okay? There's a very strong. 0.98. Okay? Okay ba tayo? Ngayon, nabanggit ni Professor Yambot na yung coefficient daw ng correlation, actually, minsan merong moderate lang na relationship, pero significant na. Or merong mababa na, or weak, or yeah, moderate or weak na correlation or linear relationship. Pero nakadepende sa konteksto at sa field kung magiging significant or hindi. So, how do we know if this relationship is significant? So all we have to do is to test it. So for number 3, is there enough evidence to believe that indeed the number of hours spent studying has a significant linear relationship with the final exam grades at 5% level of significance? So for the null hypothesis, you can just say there is no significant relationship. So let me add column above. So for the null hypothesis. So yeah, can somebody please type it, the null hypothesis here? Key in the null hypothesis. There is no significant linear relationship between final exam grades and number of hours spent studying. O na pala yung dapat number of hours spent studying. For the alternative, there is a strong or there is a significant linear relationship. Sige. Somebody please complete this. There is no significant. Okay. How about for the alternative? All you have to do is to just get the opposite of the null hypothesis. Sige. I'll just be verifying the symbol that we're going to use. Okay. So we'll be using raw. Sino tong orange? Sige. Sige, Azania. Chloe, you can start typing na for the alternative. So while they're typing for the, sige, hintayin pala natin. Excite na naman ako. Si Aldea gusto na lagyan ng test procedure. Sige, Aldea, what will be the test procedure? For the symbol here, it should be raw. Yeah, raw is equal to 0. So then no difference. For the alternative, we have raw is not equal to /NP. Should be /NP. And equal to 0. Two-tailed. So two-tailed what? Two-tailed t-test. Very good, Aldea. So dito, this is what we're going to follow. You can also see this on the lecture slides. Since our alternative hypothesis is not equal, so two-tailed t-test. Two-tailed t-test. How about the decision rule? How do we write the decision? So you can complete this at the 5% level of significance. Reject. Sige, kindly complete this. Aside from Aldea, who would like to complete the decision rule at the 5% level of significance, reject. Sige. So, kailangan nyo lang i-follow to. Reject. At 5% level of significance, reject. Anybody? Reject. The null hypothesis. So you can put H sub 0 here. The null hypothesis. If So what will be the condition to reject? Sabi ni Aldea kanina, we'll be using two-tailed t-test. So we'll be having this one. If the absolute value of TC, or the absolute value of the computed value of T sub C, just TC. Just T sub C. T sub C is greater than, it's greater than T alpha over 2, T slash alpha over 2 with the degrees of freedom n minus 2. And then otherwise, fail to reject. Otherwise, we fail to reject H sub 0. Questions? Okay, so manghihiram tayo ng distribution KT na to determine if this is significant or not. So nga, can somebody please compute for the computed value of C, of T pala, by substituting the values on our formula for T. Sige, anybody can do it. Kasi naman yung pwede. So we need the value of R. Kaya pala may square root, no? Square root. What's R? Sa baba naman, ganun din. What's R nga ulit? Yeah. Can somebody please key in the value of R here? So we need R. Yeah, thank you, Alexa. Sige. Okay, so, and then you have to multiply that. No? Sige, Alexa, palagay na din sa ibaba. Times, what's your N? Your N is the number of pairs. Sige, Alexa, go. Your N is 8. Tama. So that will be N minus 8 minus 2. Okay, go. Sige, will you please plug this in your calculator and then kung sino man yung unang makakuha ng value, give me the value of the computed value of T in 4 decimal places. Medyo malaki, no? So sabi ni Alexa is 14.811. Walang kasunod to? 8. Okay, sige. Thumbs up kung okay kayo sa sagot ni Alexa kung paras kayo nakuha. Or nagko-compute pa kayo. The next thing we need to do is to get the value of the okay, sige. For the tabular value of T, kindly, will somebody please look at our table of the critical values of T and then look for 0.0256. Or look at two-tailed tapos 5%. Two-tailed 5% and then 6. What is the tabular value of T? Pag meron ng may sagot, kindly key in the answers here. Or that value. Okay, so I was also able to get 2.44. Actually, 6.9 pa yung sa akin. So anyway, 7. So it's good also. 2.4469. So I think you can do 6.9. Pero 7 ba yung nakuha sa table? Sino tong green? Aldea, 7 yung sa table. 2.447.
Yes po.
Okay. Thank you. Sige, yun na lang yung gamitin natin. Thank you. So what will be our decision? Can somebody please type here our decision? What will be our decision? Sige, would like to type the decision. Or anybody na, anybody. Uy, wait. Nandito na ba si Maya? Wala pa. Wala pa si Maya dito, no? Sige. Sige, for the decision, how do we do the decision nga? We reject ba? We reject, no? Tama, we reject. So we reject. Sino nag-chat sa akin? Tama. Sabi ni Alexa, reject daw. So we reject. Sino to? Si Aldea ba to? Sige, Aldea, continue. We reject. The HO. Since. Yan. Oh, napaka-husay naman. TC, which is equivalent to basically the computed value of T. The absolute value of the computed value of T is greater than the tabular value. Parang nice sinabi. Okay, very nice. So what will be our conclusion? So for the conclusion, we can say there is enough evidence to believe. So you can basically copy this now. There is enough evidence to believe that the number of hours spent studying has a significant linear relationship with final exam grades. Sige, anybody would like to write the conclusion? Sige, si Alexa naman. Ay, teka, nandito ka na, Maya. Ayan, nandito na si Maya. Okay. Okay, so far, okay na tayo sa R. Nakapag-test na din tayo kung significant or hindi. Okay. So habang sinusulat ni Alexa yung final conclusion, so usually, if you found out, there's a significant relationship between the two variables, we can proceed to regression analysis. Kasi medyo limited lang yung pwede mo nating sabihin or makuha from the correlation coefficient or from the correlation analysis. We want to see how those behavior or how those variables behave. Say, for example, if you change one variable, what will happen to the other variable? So for that one, we have to go or to do a simple regression analysis. So for number 4, find a simple regression model using the independent variable X and the dependent variable Y. Dun sa correlation analysis, you will have the same correlation coefficient if you interchange the two variables. Or hindi mo in-identify kung sino si X or si Y. Or in-encode mo ng una yung Y bago yung X. Or yung number ng yung grades bago yung number of hours spent studying. It will give you the same value. But for regression analysis, you have to assign your dependent and your independent variable. And for this case, we will assign the independent variable yung number of hours spent studying, and then the dependent variable will be the final grades. And then we're going to get the regression coefficient and the regression constant. So what's the difference between the two? Kung napanood yung buong webinar ni Professor Yambot, yung regression model natin is just the y equals mx plus b. If you can still remember your linear equation. So y equals mx plus b, m is your slope, b is your y-intercept. So yun lang din yung kukunin natin for the regression coefficient and regression constant. Okay, so let me look for the formula so that we can compute for these coefficients manually first before we get our calculator later. Again, yung mga list ng assumptions before going to regression analysis, lahat yun nasa webinar ni Professor Yambot. You can check all those things, but for our class, for stat 1, we will assume that everything is satisfied. Okay, so I found the formula, and we will be using still. Yan. Okay. Kita nyo, ang ginamit lang din natin will be the same summations na nakuha natin from the previous table. Okay? So yung regression coefficient, that will be our B. So yun yung B, yung slope. For the regression constant, that's your A. Now, other books will give you this form. So y, what's that? Y let me verify lang is equal to, so yung regression coefficient nila is b sub 1 x plus b sub 0. So in this case, yung b sub 1 natin will be the regression coefficient. So siya yung b. Tapos yung regression constant natin will be the a. So siya yung b sub 0. So let's just compute for this one. Sub a to, no? So let's insert equation here. A is equal to, this is the regression coefficient. B pala to, B, sorry. Or B sub 1. So, sige, let's compute for this one. Can somebody please help me key in the values for B? So n, we'll start with 8 times summation of xy. Summation of xy, let's go back to summation of xy. Summation of xy is 2795. So it's 2795. 2795. Sige, will somebody please continue this for me? Sige. Sino? Sino ang gusto mag-continue nito? Substitute lang yung values nito. Lagyan ko lang dito para hindi malito, no? Kung ano yung comparison doon sa formula na binigay ko. Y equals, what's this? B, no? Bx plus A. Ayan, si Aldea ulit. For the regression constant naman, let me copy this para pares ng font. We'll compute for A. Ayan, si Alexa daw. Alexa, would you like to do this? So, yeah. Okay, so for the others, kindly do this on your notebook or on your calculator, and then let's verify kung tama yung sagot nila later. Okay. Do this in 2 minutes. Okay? Sige, so na-substitute na ni Aldea lahat ng values. Kindly please plug this on your calculator and then look for the value of B. Yun din, tapos na din si Alexa. Sige, kung may value na kayo, sorry. Yan. Kung may value na kayo, type nyo lang dito, tapos let others verify. So JSL daw may value na. Okay? How about the others? Kung tama kayo dun sa B, or you can comment dun sa ano natin, sa chat box natin. 33851. Sino to? Si Alexa to, no? Yung blue. Yan. Okay. So how do we interpret this? Regression coefficient. Let's go first with the regression constant. So what does it mean for the regression constant? What does it mean when we say the regression constant is 33.8571? Anybody? So this is actually it's actually the predicted value of your y. Your y is your final exam grade now when your independent variable is 0. So ibig sabihin nun, kung hindi ka nag-aral or hindi ka nag-spend ng at least 1 hour, or so if you don't study or if you didn't study, then if you're part of this population, then you are expected to have a score of 33. Okay, in other cases hindi nagme-make sense yung yung y-intercept or itong regression constant kasi in real life hindi siya nag-exist kasi kunyari kung nag-set ka lang ng kunyari ang lowest possible dun sa y mo ay 10 pero nakuha mo dun sa regression constant ay for example 5, since hindi siya pasok sa domain, minsan nangyayari lang yung regression constant para lang ma-direct yung line. Okay? But in those cases, okay lang na kahit hindi mo siya interpret kasi ginamit lang naman yung constant to direct the line. Okay? So for the regression constant, but for this case, parang nagmamaano naman siya, nagme-make sense. So the predicted so this is the predicted ano nga yung y natin? Exam grade, no? The predicted final exam grade is 33.8571 if the number of hours spent studying 0. Or you can write this in other ways. So if you did not study, you're part of the population, then you can expect to have a score of 33.857 on the average. Okay. So for the regression coefficient, this is actually the rate of change. The rate of change in your final exam grade, that's your y. If you increase or if you change your independent variable. So you can interpret this as there is a 7.7262 score to, no? Score change in final exam. So exam score for every 1 hour change in the time spent studying. Does it make sense? So pag daw dinagdagan mo ng 1 hour, yung time spent studying mo, then you're expected to have a 7.7262 unit or score increase in your final exam score. The same is true for if you decrease, for example, if you decrease the number of hours spent studying, then you are expecting to have a decrease also of 7.7262 on the average on your final exam score. So, you can, ito pala mas maganda. For every 1 hour change in the hours spent studying or time, let's choose time spent studying, there is a 7.7262 score change. I like kung sinasabing score change. Change na lang. Change in the final exam scores. Score. Okay. Does it make sense? Okay ba tayo? Thumbs up nga kung okay tayo dito. So you can have this one, or you can have this one. And then for this one, yeah. So what will be our estimated model? For the estimated model, you can have y equals, so what will be your slope? Pero normally, sinasabi mo na yung regression constant. So it's 33.8571 plus, if your slope is positive, in this case, it's positive, 7.7262 x. Or, kung gusto natin na mas makita natin, so it will be exam score. Let's further qualify this. This is final exam score is equal to, that's 33.8571 plus 7.7262 times hours, number of hours spent studying. Yan. Okay, so basically that's our model. Ngayon, tanong natin dyan, para saan ba to? Well, actually, you can use this to predict. For instance, let's have letter D here. Predict the score of, sino ba na? Si Agatha. Can predict the score of Agatha who spent, ilang oras kang nag-aaral, Agatha? Who spent, kunyari, 12 hours. Parang 12 hours. 7 hours. 7 hours studying. Sige nga, predict nyo nga, what will be the predicted score of Agatha? Kung nag-aral siya for 7 hours. Pwede nyo i-type sa chat box. May sagot na kayo. Meron na ba? 87 da, sabi ni J-Cell. Sige, let's see if that's correct. So if x is equal to 7, so all you have to do is to substitute, no? Substitute 7 here. Sabi ni J-Cell, the answer will be 87.9405 or, sorry, 87 pala. Or if this is exam scores talaga, no? Approximately 88. Tama? 88. So check na nga. 88 nga. Okay? So we're now finally here. We'd like to assess the adequacy of the estimated regression model by computing the coefficient of determination. Let me first get how they compute this dun sa OpenStax. Kasi may nakita ko dun na parang magandang interpretation for the adequacy. Let me check muna. Do you have other questions? Do you have any questions before we compute for the adequacy? Okay, sige. So basically, r squared lang yan, r squared. So let's have an example here. So example here. So yan. So to measure the adequacy, we can use the coefficient of determination. That's just basically the square of r. So our r here is, what's our r again? It's 0.9866 now. 0.9866. So what will be our r squared? Somebody please compute for r squared. Square lang natin yung 0.9866. That will give us 0.9734. Tama ba? 0.9734. So that's what I was able to get. Check nyo nga. .9734. Yeah. So how do we interpret that? So we can use this as a pattern. So approximately, how many percent? So in this case, it's 97.34% of the variation in the final exam scores can be explained by the variation in the, ano yung ating independent variable? In the number of hours spent studying. Sure, pwede na yan. Okay? Or you can continue using the best fit regression line. Or you can using the regression model. So again, yes, using the regression model. Period. Tapos meron pa dito. Pwede nyo dagdagan. Kasi kung 97% lang, ibig sabihin, meron pang approximately 3%. Tama ba? Approximately 3%. So that's 1 minus this one. So mga 2.66. So you can continue. Therefore, the rest of the variation, which is 2.66%, approximately 2.66%, in the final exam scores cannot be cannot be explained by the variation of the, what's this? Number of hours, no? Number of hours spent studying with the regression model. Okay. Actually, pwede na yan. Ayun yung mga parang ano, parang unexplained variation. But in this case, just 97.30. We'll stop on this one. So coefficient of ano lang tayo, determination. When you go for statistics and research, you might be asked to determine if these values are significant. Itong 33.8571, which is your regression constant, and your regression coefficient, you will be asked to determine if that is significant. But you can just run that on Microsoft Excel. Kasi kukunin nyo pa ulit yung mga ano, yung mga p-value noon, yung p-value noon, or you have to compare that into tabular value. But for our case, we're just going to have this for the regression, simple regression analysis. Okay. Also, sa correlation analysis, you can have multiple variables. For example, kung ang pre-predict niya lang ay, kunyari, ang first variable niyo will be final exam grades or final exam score, then you can have other variables, say for example, distance from school, average distance from school, ay yung katulad ito, number of hours spent studying. You can have grades in, for example, English, baka related siya dun sa grade, final exam grade sa math. So for example, you can have other variables and you can run that simultaneously. You can determine the correlation coefficient of every pairs of variables. Okay. And there's such thing as partial correlation. Kasi you might find that partialing out one variable will give you a more parang better estimate of the relationship between two variables. Kung ipa-partial out natin yung isang variable. So for example, kung meron tayong dalawang variable that will, in this case, i-correlate natin sa final exam grade. For example, number of hours spent studying at saka, ano pa ba isa? Number of hours spent studying at saka, ano ba magandang variable na nakaka-apekto sa grade? For example, yung entrance, ano pa? So let's say socio-economic status. Pwede ba yun? Or baon nyo. Nakaka-apekto ba yun ng grade? So for example lang, nung face-to-face, may baon kayo. So that's, ano ba tawag sa baon? Allowance or average allowance. So pwede may partial out yung isang para malaman mo kung ano yung better estimate ng relationship. Kung gusto mong tanggalin yung, yung average allowance. So, yun. So, we call that partial correlation. Okay? Sige, dami ko na nasabi. Maubos na yung oras natin. Kaya nyo pa bang magstay for the calculator? Kaya pa ba magstay? Pakita ko lang mabilis. Thumbs up na kung kaya pa magstay. Pero kung hindi na, I'll just make a video. Okay? Sige. So, let's go to, for those who are going to prepare for the next class, okay lang, pwede na mag-go. Naka-record naman to. You can just watch later. Let's go to GeoGebra first. Sa GeoGebra, ito yung scatter plot natin. You can go to the regression model to get the regression model. So, if you click linear, yan, ito yung line natin. Okay? So, tama tayo na compute nyo. Y equals 7.7262. Ito yung nakuha natin for the B. And then 33.8571. Ito yung nakuha natin for A. Okay? And you can actually predict here, no? Ano yung pinredict natin? Sabi si Agatha daw ba? Si Agatha kung nag-aral siya for 7 hours. So let's see. Yeah, 87.9405. Okay. And then for the other details, you can click this, show statistics, which will give you these values. Okay? Kasi yung books sa other books will give you a formula for R, a different formula for R. the formula for R will be S sub xy divided by S sub xx times S sub yy. So basically, it's just 3.24 divided by the product of these two. Will give you the R value. Okay? But kung gusto niyo nang gamitin lang yung formula natin, you can do that also. At yung mean ng x at y, you can have the standard deviations of x and y. You can have the R value, which is 0.9866. Ano ba yung nakuha natin? 0.9866. Let me check. Yeah, tama. 0.9866. So, and the R squared is 0.9733. Ito yung coefficient of determination. You can basically get everything already on GeoGebra. Okay. Now, let's do this in Microsoft Excel. For Microsoft Excel, let's have first on the scatter plot. Actually, sa scatter plot, you can add a chart element here. Tapos punta kayo sa trend line. Yan, daming pwede kayong gamitin. No? So, but we just want the linear. So, ito rin yung line na red line kaya sa GeoGebra. You can double click this. And then you will have this format trend line option here. You can go to the several options. Dito tayo pumunta. Para makita natin yung equation and chart. Okay? So, familiar ba to equation na to? Okay, this is the same regression model na ginawa natin kanina. Tapos, you can also display R squared. 0.9733. So this is, ano nga to? Coefficient of determination. Measure of adequacy. Okay, so that's actually hindi lang yan. So, you can go to, so how do we run correlation analysis in Excel? You can go to data, data analysis. Alam ko, naturo ko na kung paano palabasin yung data analysis, pero just in case nawala ulit, you can just go to File, Options, Add-ins, and then Excel add-ins. Pag ginaw nyo to, kailangan naka-check yung analysis toolpath. Okay? So yan. So let me put this here. Tapos, go to data analysis. So data analysis, you will have this dialog box. We want if you click the correlation, may correlation dito. Sige, highlight the correlation. You can highlight this for the input. Kung sinama mo yung label, you have to check this. Kung gusto mong dito lang lumabas yung values, just click here and then click OK. And you will have here the regression coefficient. Okay? Or you can just go to data analysis and then go to regression. So you can get here regression. Okay. So regression lang, you have to identify your X at Y. So for your Y, we have the final exam grades. For the X, you can have this one. Medyo binibilis ako ng konti pero you can just go back to the recordings. Check the labels. Kasi sinama natin yung labels sa pag-highlight. Output range, let's just put it here. Let's get the residual plots. Kasi napakita yun dun sa webinar, no? Okay. So you can have here the summary output. You can have the multiple R here, which is the R value also. Pero dito absolute value, hindi nito papakita kung negative. So para malaman mo kung positive or negative, you can check for the correlation analysis, or you can look at the intercept. Ito bibigay sa inyo to kung negative or positive. So kung positive yung slope, pataas. Kung negative yung slope, pababa. This is the R square. Ina-adjust to para for more realistic estimate. Pero usually, ito yung nire-report in some cases, yung adjusted R squared. But for our case, it's just the simple R. Measurement of adequacy. Tapos, minsan tatanong sa inyo, ano yung, parang gano'ng kaganda yung model, or is the model significant? So you can just check for this one. This is e raised to negative 0.0, negative e raised to negative 6. Ibig sabihin, your value is very, very small. That's your p-value, meaning your regression model is actually good. It's a good model. Familiar kayo dito? This is the ANOVA table. Actually, ANOVA table yung ginamit. to test if your regression model is good. So since this is significant, so your regression is good. Our model is good. Ito yung coefficients natin. This is A. Sorry. This is B and this is A. Ito yung slope. Ito yung, ito pala yung constant and this is the slope. Sabi ko kanina, may cases na tinitingnan pa kung significant ba yung mga values na yon. You can just look at this, t-values. Ito yung t-value natin, di ba? 14.7946. Tapos ito yung p-value. Since the p-values are very, very small, then you can say that those coefficients are actually significant. For the residual plots, hindi ko pala nakita yung residual. Ito pala, residual plot ba ito? Yeah, for the residual plots, usually ang sabi sa atin, kailangan wala daw, wala daw, parang walang pattern. So, minsan yung residual plot, kung may pattern siya, kung lumilipes, o kaya lumalawak yung graph ninyo, then baka hindi best gamitin regression analysis. Okay? And then finally, let's do that on your calculator. So let's have this calculator. Mode, you can go to mode, then look for stat. Tatanungin kayo ni stat kung anong gusto nyo. Usually, yung 1 lang yung ginagamit natin. But this time, we want 2. That's for the linear modeling. That's 2 and then just plug in your values of x and y. Let me just plug in the values of x and y. Here, hanapin ko lang ng mabilis. Sorry kung medyo nagmadali tayo for now. 3, 5, 1, 2, 6, 8, 4, 7. And then, do that also for the y values. For the y values, that's 50, 72, 45, 51, 80, 96, 65, 90. Then, so pag tapos nyo ng i-encode, you can just press AC and then go to stat. Yung number 1, usually nasa 1 yan. Shift 1. Okay. Then look for reg, kasi regression yung gusto natin. So just press 7. And then here are the values that you need. You want to get the value of R, just press 3. Then you will get 9866. Okay. If you want to get the value of your slope, then just press 2. 7.7261. You want to get the value of, you want to get the value of your constant, just press 1. Yeah, 32. Okay. So that's it. And thank you very much. That will be our final lecture for the SEM. Thank you very much for the SEM AGOHO. If you have other questions, if you want to schedule some consultation, you want to ask questions to me, just do not hesitate to send a message.